Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everybody. For those of you who've been watching my channel for the last couple of months, you may recognize the background. Yes, I am back in Minnesota to continue with the Missabe Western railroad build. In fact, I'm in exactly the same hotel room as I was a couple of months ago. So without wasting any more time on introductions, let's just head back over to the customer's basement and get busy. Well, here is the basement, pretty much as I left it in January. It looks like he's got some locomotives out and he's been putting them on the layout. He said he's been having trouble getting the trains to run down here, and we suspect dirty track. But all the cleaning materials have arrived. We ordered some cleaning cars. We ordered 2 of these and some rail zip and various cleaning solution to play with. I'm pretty sure that will solve the problem. Of course, I wanted to be facetious. I would just tell him that obviously the trains aren't going to run up here because there's no power to this track on the top deck yet. Here's some nice steam locomotives. I like this 484, but then the Great Northern did have some beautiful looking locomotives. I'm here for exactly 3 weeks this time. I have 21 work days, and the goal is to get this middle deck completely operational. We won't necessarily have all the spurs in. We need to prioritize so that by the time I leave he can actually run trains. And I sent him plans a couple of weeks ago. His carpenter is going to build enough of the benchwork for me to install in this area to get the main line hooked up temporarily on both decks so that he has a continuous run as well. Well, yesterday I was having trouble with this track cleaning car. It is the clean machine from CMX, and it's supposed to be the best one on the market. But for some reason or other it wasn't working very well, and eventually I discovered it's nothing to do with the track cleaning car but the fluid that I was putting in it. Here is a product. It's called Tidy Track Clean Track Solution from Woodland Scenics, and it is not appropriate for putting in these track cleaning cars. The problem is that it needs to be wiped off the track completely afterwards, otherwise it leaves a film which is a very good insulator, the exact opposite from what we need. The rail does not conduct any electricity whatsoever to the wheels if the film remains in place. Anyway, one of the independent reviews in this booklet that came with the track cleaning machine, there's a guy here who's actually a chemist, and he recommends lacquer thinners. So last night I bought some lacquer thinners, and I got this whole quart can for about the same price as the little bottle of the Woodland Scenic stuff. So I'm going to start cleaning track again today, and hopefully I will have better success. So don't go away. Well, although there isn't really a lot to see, I have now got all the track cleaned. Here is my track cleaning train. I found I needed 3 locomotives to push the 2 track cleaning cars up the grades, because there's quite a lot of drag. And I had to start by scrubbing all the track with a bright boy to get all the residue off that I put on yesterday by mistake. So that was a lot of fun. Fortunately, I hadn't gone everywhere. I'd only done a limited amount of track yesterday. But now everything is clean. I have run the track cleaner with the lacquer thinners over every piece of track that I've laid, except for the radial spurs from the turntable, and they're so short it'll be easier to keep them clean with a bright boy anyway. And the only other place I haven't been is up the outer 2 tracks of the helix. That's because that lines up from the half of the layout that hasn't been built yet. but I have gone up 2 inner tracks all the way to the top. Well, last night the rope light appeared that I need to light the lower level. So I'm going to start by installing this, just so I've got good light to work with. Now, unfortunately, the instructions were translated from a foreign language, and the translation leaves a lot to be desired. So I can only really guess what is meant by it. And I think it is a 100-foot light. No, it's a 50-footer. But once I've got this one installed, we'll know if it's a good product for what we need. Now, it's got these rather large end caps, but I did check and they do just about go through the holes that we drilled. We drilled 1-inch holes for the rope lights and they just about fit. And it comes with 2 power cords. There were some instructions about what to do if you want to cut it in half and light it in 2 places. And there are cut marks on it. Well, I've just installed the rope lights. Haven't switched them on yet. Okay, that's how much difference it makes with just a single rope light along the front. Let me turn it off again, just so we can go back. Without the light and with the light. I think that's enough light. So just that one simple light makes a huge difference. I knew it would, but I just didn't know quite how much. I think it's a little bit too white. It's fine for a staging yard, but I think on the visible portions of the layout we need to find a warmer colour. Of course, everybody sees light and colour differently, so that's just my opinion. I will let you make up your own mind. Well, today I found out what was causing the problems that the client was having. Apparently his locomotive decoders were drawing more power than they were supposed to, and these switches on the EP1 circuit breakers, they come, factory setting is down, which makes them very sensitive to overload. And as soon as you had 2 locomotives on the track together, the combined power draw was causing it to shut down as soon as he started one up. Putting all of these up makes them a lot less sensitive, and after that I had no more trouble. And also that was the reason that the system wasn't resetting after a short if there was a locomotive in that power district, because it was detecting the locomotive and saying no, there's still too much draw, and it wasn't coming back on again. So all that trouble just for some switch settings. I thought I would share that with my viewers just in case anyone else has the same problem. Well, it is already day 3 on this project, and I've only just been able to start making some visible progress. I started by marking out and laying the roadbed in this area around the edge of the helix, and I think what I'm going to do for the rest of this area is to glue the template down to the foam. I think that'll be easier than plotting all the track individually. So in order to do that, what I have to do is make a tape hinge across the middle and then fold back one end, put the spray adhesive down and then roll it back out, and then I will move the tripod. I have the GoPro up there making a time-lapse video. So once I've got the first half glued down, I have to move the tripod and then glue the rest of this half, and then repeat the process at the other end. I have been putting off doing that because really I wanted some help to do it. I want an extra pair of hands to hold the paper out of the way so I don't glue it down in the wrong place. But my help isn't arriving until much later today, so I'm going to have to do at least part of it by myself. So don't go away, I'll check in with you again later. Well, I came across a bit of a problem down here. The foam panels in this area and not stuck down properly. So I've cut them up and I'm going to get glue underneath them again, weight them down, get them properly glued. Because if any layer isn't glued properly, the whole lot fails. So I've got to go back and make sure this works before I continue. It's only a minor setback, it'll only take me a few minutes, but it's important that I noticed it now. Well, I've got the print glued down over this side all the way along. And I've started work on the roadbed. I've done most of the front part for the first few feet. And now it gets complicated because I've got to build up the start of the grade here. Now I'd like to be able to use a Woodland Scenics grade starter, but they don't have anything less than 2%, and this is somewhat less than that. It's only about 1.5, and also grade should be less at the start anyway. If they did a 1% grade starter, that'd be fantastic, but they don't. So I basically made my own by cutting strips of foam. It's a little bit less than 1/2 inch to nothing over something like 30 inches. And you notice they don't line up at the end. That's because a couple of them end up slightly thicker. So the way to get them to work is just to slide them down until they're all the same thickness, and then just cut them off there. And that will be close enough. And because I have turnouts to start the grade, I'm going to start by putting one on each side. So one in there, curve it as necessary. Another one here, a straight one. And then I'll just fill in the middle bit. There may be a few gaps, which doesn't matter because there's going to be foam roadbed over the top of them anyway. At this point I'm just trying to get the level right. So let me go away, do that, and I'll be right back. Well, all the tapered pieces are now glued in, along with the full 1/2 inch thick piece at the top. That was necessary because the end of the plywood was curved up slightly to meet the other section of the sloping benchwork. And if you notice here, I don't go down to 0. They're cut off at 1/8 of an inch height. That is because the bottom of the grade is going to have 1/4 inch roadbed, and then I'm going to switch to the 1/8 inch roadbed as soon as I get to that step, because that's what I use on the helix. And there's no sense in using the thicker stuff in the hidden areas. That's a 2-track staging yard that goes right beside it. So now I can lay the roadbed at the bottom of the grade and put a sheet of the rubber on top of it. Well, before I can go any further with the roadbed, I've got to get this bridge in. I've already cut out the paper template. I can discard that because I've finished with it. And I've cut plywood roadbed out of 3/16 door skin plywood. One for the main 5-track bridge, and then 2 more for the spurs that go across front and back. They're a little bit low, I've still got to shim them up. As I mentioned in an earlier video, it's much easier to shim them than it is to shave them. So I'm just going to dig into my box of shims and see what I can find. Don't go away, I'll be right back. Well, I found that my step was pretty consistent in most places. I found that in all but one area I needed 1mm plywood, both ends of the front and the middle, and this end of this one. And that one needed a slightly thinner piece of cardboard. And now all those are just about perfect. And over that distance, that thin plywood is plenty strong enough to support the track. Eventually it will get stiffened by bridge girders, which will stand about 1 inch high and be glued to it. And they will keep it stiff in the same way as the prototype does. Well, yesterday I got all the roadbed in over this side of the railroad. There's a few spurs where you may notice that there is no roadbed. That's because those spurs are going to be directly on the foam. So I can just bury the tracks in the ballast. I've done that with these two spurs serving the paper warehouse. A few of the industrial, or most of the industrial spurs at this end, and the paper mill yard. Everywhere else I've got ballast. I've got the thick stuff for the main lines and the thin stuff for the secondary trackage. I haven't put the roadbed in for the hidden tracks go around beside that go around behind the helix, but I will do that later on. I'm probably going to reach that from the other side because I think it'll be easier. But at the moment the benchwork over there is just resting, so it's not really safe to climb on. I was supposed to have a time-lapse video of this process, but unfortunately the new GoPro that I bought didn't like the card the way it was. I had to reformat it because yesterday it did not save the file at all, so I didn't get anything. I've moved it around the other side of the layout for this morning because, as we can see, there are a lot of benchwork frames that have now been built. I'm going to get those installed. Those go in this area and they allow temporary connections so that we can get continuous running on both the lower and the middle levels. So I'm going to get that done next, and then I'll go back to the track laying on the other side. So don't go away, I will check in with you again periodically. Well, since I'm about to be moving on to a completely different area of the railroad, I've decided that I'm going to break this video here. It's already getting long enough. I'm just going to add the still pictures after this and call that good for this week. I know this presentation was somewhat disjointed because I took care of a whole load of completely different tasks, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway, and I hope to see you again next week. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.